Carregar has revealed the old player he shouldn't be playing anymore. Jamie Carragher argued that Liverpool shouldn't be in a situation where James Milner started games and said he was making this criticism for the club, not the player. The 36-year-old has started 3 games for Liverpool this season, placing in Liverpool's starting 11 in Wednesday night's Champions League defeat to Napoli by the 4th of January. Carragher highlighted the problem of the club's older players in his statement. Jürgen Klopp's side seems to have lost its magic this period, with many questioning the performances of key players and whether the team will be able to maintain the intensity levels desired by their managers. The lack of refreshment for the squad depicted not only this summer, but also last summer, and injuries to key players are not important either. Do Liverpool need to change because this roster no longer fits the levels required of them? If that's the case, Carragher made it clear that young faces should be brought in. Carragher said, "We're talking about Liverpool being able to play with high intensity all the time. They can only do that if they get younger players. The problem is they have a lot of older players." James Milner, 36, plays in Liverpool's midfield at least 3 or 4 times this season. It's not a criticism of him, it's a criticism of the club. Liverpool should not be in a position where James Milner played in midfield at 36. It would be nonsense not to agree with Carragher. Their description is really what many fans think. Liverpool's midfield is old and unsuitable for high-tempo play. Milner's contract was already ending this season, but Klopp was keen to stay, so he signed a new 1-year contract. But did Liverpool need this deal? Although Liverpool had a fast transfer window this summer, I think they did not have a sufficient transfer window, because the obvious deficiencies were replaced by potential explosive players. While Klopp has made it clear that the club will not be adding a midfielder to its roster in the 2022 summer transfer market, Arthur's signature on the deadline day already explains that it was a huge mistake. The fans were right since the beginning of summer and they are right now. Playing a high-intensity game with an aged midfielder would be suicidal. After a while, the team has serious problems in defense and there are gaps between the lines. However, there is another point that I don't understand. Liverpool are interested in Aurelien Tchouameni this summer. Even recently, Klopp admitted that they were interested in the player and announced that he used a different team. Yes, the Reds were after the right profile, but the player chose Real Madrid. So if Liverpool believed that such a profile was needed, why was no other choice made? There is only one reason for this. Jude Bellingham unavailable. However, by postponing this issue for a year, Liverpool ignited the unavoidable problems that may arise this year. You can win next year, but you can't sacrifice this year. We'll see if Arthur can be a short-term solution, but it's clear that Liverpool doesn't just need Jude Bellingham. Liverpool need to go through an overhaul in the midfield and it won't be just Bellingham. Obviously, it has been clear that this year will be a painful period, but the next year definitely needs correct and fast moves. Brilliant Brighton player tipped for Liverpool or Man City move. Liverpool will not be in the Premier League this weekend. The Reds' final on-flight clash with the Wolves on Saturday afternoon was delayed by the authorities as a show of respect following the death of Queen Elizabeth II. But while it's not an action to discuss on the field, there's still a lot going on in the gossip columns. Billy Gilmour, who plays for Brighton, has been tipped for a potential transfer to Liverpool in the future. The Scotland national player has recently left Chelsea in a deal worth around £9 million to the Seagulls and is looking to get bigger ace opportunities on the south coast. But expert Pat Nevin has argued that it's only a matter of time before the Premier League returns to one of the so-called Big Six. Pat Nevin said, "Billy Gilmour is at a pivotal point in his career and it's great to move to Brighton. It's the right move. Chelsea won't regret selling him because that's not what they thought of as a club. But they might want to get him back again. 4 or 5, after years, I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester City plays in Liverpool or Chelsea midfield. Technically, he's that good. Billy Gilmour is only 21 and has a long career ahead of him. He's doing well in the central midfield role and could whet the appetite of the Liverpool recruiters with his cheap tag. It is imperative that Liverpool add players to both the starting lineup and the rotation in the upcoming transfer window. We should not ignore that high sums will be spent especially on ace players. Therefore, the players to be rotated can be both potential and cheaper. Billy Gilmour is one of those who fit this profile. A good performance at Brighton could open the doors to Anfield for him. Jürgen Klopp has a £37 million gun to unlock. In the days when each team played in a more or less 4-4-2 formation, frontline partnerships were vital. Roberto Firmino assisted 20 of Mohamed Salah's goals, and both Firmino and Salah created 17 for Sadio Mane. However, on the contrary, there is a man in the team who sees his own business at the moment. There was little good for Liverpool in the midweek loss 4-1 against Napoli. It's really hard to remember a game in which Jürgen Klopp's Liverpool played so poorly before. There were a few bright sparks in the gloom. One of them is the return of Thiago Alcantara after 5 games. He boosted the team's performance even though the result was long gone when he left the bench. The other was undoubtedly Liverpool's best player, Luis Diaz. He was the player who shot the most and put the most effort into the goal. And Diaz graced this challenging performance with a goal. He scored his 10th goal for the club. He's the Reds' top scorer with 4 goals this season, and besides sealing their 9-0 win against Bournemouth with the final goal, the other 3 have come in critical playing situations. He has had a remarkable performance since donning the red jersey in January in a £37 million deal from Porto. All 10 of Diaz's goals were assisted directly by a teammate. No penalties, no direct free kicks, no taking advantage of a loose ball pinballing around the penalty area, nothing. While the number of goals remains a relatively small sample, it is extremely unusual for 100% of the total to have assists. Diogo Jota's rate was 88%, putting him ahead of Mane at 83%, Firmino at 77% and Salah at 62%. For 809 goals scored by Klopp's Liverpool, this figure is 71%. Probably more notable is that all 10 of Diaz's goals were scored by different players. Coming to our main topic, as we mentioned at the beginning of our speech, frontline partnerships are vital. Diaz has always been a player fed by his friends, but improving his assists himself could lead to an increase in Liverpool's offensive variations. Diaz is effectively flying solo, but if he partners with other teammates, Liverpool could take his career to a much better place.